Okay, so just before we start basically launching Kali, there's one more thing we need to do. And the thing is, we need to configure our virtual machine so it is in the best way and so it doesn't cause any disruption to us, right? So what we're going to do is launch VMware. Now you should have your virtual machine there. You can rename it if you want. You can just go settings and rename it here in the options, right? So when you launch your virtual machine, or you just edit virtual machine settings, you can do it through inside the player there. But the thing is, as I said, right, so basically how virtual machines work, we create a computer inside the computer using software, which is VMware. And what happens is the computer, our host machine, which is our physical computer, shares the resources with the guest, which is our Kali, right? So what we need to do is basically we need to make sure that we have enough resources for the virtual machine to basically run without any problems. Obviously, there will be much problems if you do anything demanding. There will be problems, but if you obviously give it enough power, you should not have much complications. So what I recommend, I have about 9 gigs of RAM. You should have about 16 gigs of RAM, right? The more you give it, the better it's going to run, and the better, basically, the easier or the faster for sort of hacking and cracking and stuff will be done. Right, so as I said, I recommend giving it, I would say, half of your RAM. You don't need to run anything else between. You might run a browser, but that's all you need, to be honest, should have, right? So like a tutorial or something, or some notes, right? So I would say give it about half, or slightly above or slightly under. Processors, I would give it about, I would say half as well. The more you give it, obviously, the better. Hard drive, you should, I'm not sure how much it is by default, but I would say about 80, 100 gigs is absolutely fine. That's just basically the physical drive or CD drives. We don't need to know this. We don't need to basically do anything because we haven't installed. As you can see, we can use ISO, which is the disk image, to install Kali, but this is not, we haven't done this because it takes much longer. We can use NAT. Sorry, you have a network adapter right now. You should have, basically, make sure that you have this on. And what I do recommend is NAT. That's the safest option. As you can see, Bridge connect directly to the physical network, which basically connects directly to your router, right? Basically, it's just another device. I do not recommend this because this obviously is it can be a threat, right, to your security. So I would say the safest option is NAT. I'll go through these options later, but I would say NAT, right? USB controller, I'll just leave as it is, basically just turn on what I have. Maybe you could turn this off because you really don't need Bluetooth. Sound card, just, you don't really need the sound card, you can leave as it is. Display, leave as it is. You can always change this, or use host settings for monitor. Options, your name, power, leave as it is. Shared folders, now this is very, very important. You need to disable shared folders. This is a threat if you don't disable it. What shared folder does, as you may think about it, is share the folders between the machines. Now, you don't need to turn this on, because what you can do is between your host machine and your virtual machine, you can drag stuff in and stuff out, and you can always download stuff from your computer, and you can transfer files easily, right? There's a faster way to do this. There's other ways better to do this, right, than having shared folders, because remember, if you leave this on and someone hacks into your virtual machine, for example, maybe you download the virus, or what can happen is from the guest machine, it can basically, through a shared folder, you can infect your host machine, right? Something we didn't want to do. And I would say all of these tools here are not very, very important. So apart from VMware tools, but that should be, if I'm not wrong, it should be installed. Now, one more thing you should do is basically when you launch your Kali, you need VMware tools. It basically makes everything easier, and it allows you to pass basically files between your host machine and your guest machine, right? So basically, if you launch your virtual machine and you just go to manage and reinstall, basically it should be install VMware tools, right? So just make sure you turn on your VMware and install VMware tools, and that will make your life easier.